Welcome to Community, the TV show. I'm Kathy Antunes, guest hosting for Annette Sherman. Sarasota is blessed with so many cultural resources, and the Van Wezel is a wonderful example of a public partnership and private partnership that's working really well. Actually, Mary Bensel took the Van Wezel, she's been with us for 12 years, the executive director of Van Wezel, and she has transformed that institution from a floundering and financially challenged to something hugely flourishing and bringing so many great shows to the community. So Mary, thank you so much for being with us.
What an introduction.
I know, but I have
you.
to say, you have transformed the Van Wezel. Why don't you start us off with when you came to town?
Well, when I came to town, I really did not know what I was getting myself into. I'd never worked for a government before. Mm-hmm. And so, of course, I found all these rules and things that, are sort of totally the opposite of running a theater. But you had to find a way to work. But, when I got here, I sort of felt like the arts people felt I was a government person, and the government people didn't know what to make of me because I'm a theater person, mm-hmm. and we always think out of the box. So, and I had been hired, and I was told that all I had to do was present a wonderful season, but if there was a shortfall, the city would make up for it.
You found out it was more than that.
Oh, yeah.
It was way more than that.
Well, I was driving here. I had my little Yorkie with me on my shoulder, and I got a call, and the economy had fallen. Yeah. And Bob Bartolotta, who was then the city manager, said, "Oh, you are now in charge of a challenge team, and you now have to make your budget work without any city input." And I about wanted to take the car and drive back to Philadelphia.
Yeah, because that was a big change in what was being expected of you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there was actually talk of, do we need a performing arts hall? I remember that.
I find amazing that someone would even say that, but and so it was a time where I felt not a lot of love, and mm-hmm. but I came in and I had to make a lot of changes because, I'm from an arts background and I'm from a business background, and that's really important. Yeah. So that was a big part of it for me.
Yeah. So since you've taken over, like I said, there was a deficit with the Van Wezel. Yeah. It was during the downturn, and it's really not a public-private partnership. This is a public facility.
This is a totally public. Where the public-private comes in is we have a wonderful foundation, which raises money for the hall. Mm-hmm. And so I work very much, I'm on the board of the Van Wezel Foundation, which is a private entity. And so we certainly navigate that line. But, when I got here, it was $2 million approximately that we were going to have a shortfall that the city was going to put into it. And so that first year I was able to get it down to about $1.4 million. And then slowly in the next year or two, brought it to a positive where we've made and I don't like the word profit because it's a surplus, because mm-hmm. what we do is we put that money either back into the building. There were so many renovations needed. And, we put in a terrace with the sails outside, all new seats, a new sound system. So we did all these wonderful improvements with the surplus we made. Yeah. But we're also operating on 94% earned income to 6% unearned income.
Wow.
Where if you look at the other arts institutions in town, you could find some as low as 40-60 or 50-50, some maybe 70-30. And we have research that shows we are the best at doing this in the country as far as performing arts halls.
That's a phenomenal result, Mary.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, but I just, hats off to you because there's so much concern and criticism sometimes about these public-private partnerships and if they're really going to work. And you have done an absolutely amazing job.
Thank you.
But you bring incredible expertise to your role. So take me back to Pittsburgh. Where you got educated.
I started in Mansfield University undergraduate, and I went for a speech and theater degree, and my mother made me get a secondary education degree so I'd have something to fall back on. Because God forbid, you go into the theater. And mm-hmm. then I went to Pittsburgh and the University of Pittsburgh, and I became, I had a master's degree in acting and directing, but to pay for my college, I had an assistantship as the business manager of the theater, so I did the press, the marketing, the box office, and I got into that management side, and I was very young, and they were the Today Show was coming to Pittsburgh to do a show about Pittsburgh, and we happened to have a production called Steel City. I literally got us on the Today Show. And, today I would be much more nervous about making that call, but when you're 21 years old, the world,
Yeah, you're bold and you're just out there doing things.
And so then I went from there to being a founding member of the Pittsburgh Public Theater, which was a theater very similar to the Oslo or FST here in town. And then I became the director of marketing audience development for the Pittsburgh Ballet, so I learned a lot about ballet. And then I went on to work all across the country, Arizona, Philadelphia, being a director of all these different nonprofit producing companies like the Oslo. And then I got a job working in Broadway theater, segued to that. And so I really love working the model of performing arts halls because, one day we have opera, and the next day it could be, Ron White, the comedian, it's Broadway, then you have rock and roll. And so the diversity is what I love about what I do.
Yeah, and you bring such a great smorgasbord
of
events
absolutely.
to Sarasota. So
something for everybody almost.
Yeah, I'd love to hear what's happening this year at the Van Wezel.
Oh my gosh, well we recently announced that Harry Connick Jr. is coming. Yay. And he's one of my favorite performers. He can do it all, singer, actor, and so we put tickets on sale, and I think, at that point it sold over 1,000 tickets. So when this airs, we'll see if there are any left.
Yeah.
But he's a wonderful performer, but John Fogerty is our gala artist, and John Fogerty, of course, was the great singer of Creedence Clearwater Revival, and that show is going to be amazing. He has a huge video wall. It is beyond belief, and the foundation, the Van Wezel Foundation, raises money for we have a wonderful education program. Over 30,000 kids come to see our school time shows every year. And so they have a dinner, a cocktail party before the show, and it really is a special night. And then we have so many more performers coming. Josh Groban, Les Miserables. Broadway is my favorite, and I'm sure everybody has heard we had to cancel our 50th anniversary show because one of Il Divo got hurt. He had the flu, and his doctor prescribed something, and who would have thought you had a ruptured Achilles tendon from taking an antibiotic?
Oh, I actually...
Did you really? Oh my gosh.
I used to sell antibiotics, so yeah, there's the fluoroquinolones, they can do that.
Well, I had to look it up on the internet. I thought surely he was skiing or something, but no, it is the case.
Antibiotic, yeah.
So what we had to do is, because he was in Spain and the doctor wouldn't let him fly because fear of blood clots and things like that, we had to change the 50th anniversary celebration. So we're having it on the night of Come From Away, which is our big new Broadway show this year. And so, you just in show
when
business.
Is that? I know. I remember the year John Legend.
Yes.
Kind of decided he wasn't ready, and you had to.
Well, actually, John Legend. No, he happened, and he was wonderful. It was Kristen Chenoweth. Kristen Chenoweth was going to do a TV pilot, and 3 days out, we had to move everything. So, I mean, we have all sorts of things that happen in show business. People get sick, I used to work for a company that routed Broadway tours and produced them. And so, you'd have problems getting the cast into Canada. Snow is always an issue. Here we have hurricanes. So anything can happen in live theater.
Yeah. So you had this interest in theater, but did you ever perform yourself?
I performed. I of course first performed in my mother's living room, singing Into a Brush that I'm the greatest star, because I wanted to be Barbra Streisand, but the job was filled by someone a lot more talented than I was. So my acting was early on, through grad school, because as I said, I have a master's degree in acting, and but it just, I took the different path,
right.
But
I
love it.
To stay in that
and
arena.
I love the theater. I love Broadway. I love, everything about it.
Tell me what you love about it.
Well, it's the excitement. I think when you go to a movie, and a famous director said this isn't my quote, when you go to a movie, you lean back because it's larger than life. But when you go to the theater, you lean in because you're trying to meet those performers. They're right there. They're live. Anything can happen. There's that sense of danger in any performance, and something can happen any night. And I just enjoy it, and I'm thrilled. I'm a Tony voter again, so I'm thrilled about that.
I wanted to ask you about that because that's something that most people, I would think, don't know at all
I
about
know.
you. I was surprised when I saw that you helped select the Tony Award winners.
Yes, that's
So-
really, I vote for them. So it's a real honor. I was a Tony voter for about 20 years because the Tonys are given out by the Broadway League and, of course, the Antoinette Perry group. And the situation is they have different criteria, and they changed the criteria, which when I came here to the Van Wezel, they weren't doing a lot of big run Broadway shows. So, and luckily we've increased that. Like last year we had Lion King and we had all these shows. So I qualified again to be a Tony voter because it has to do with the theater you run.
Yeah.
And you're either a producer or you're a presenter, which I am of Broadway, or an agent, and or a general manager. And so what it means is I get invited to go to every new Broadway show, and you have to go, and they track you.
Oh, that's
and,
such a tough requirement.
It's a tough, but the
Someone's
problem
gotta do
is
it.
they have so many limited runs on the plays on Broadway. They may only run for 3 months. So I go up to New York more than normal, but that's good because it gives me a chance to be more face-to-face with agents and producers, because that helps me get Broadway shows here and helps me bring stars. So it's a really wonderful thing. So you go, you see the show, and then come, I guess it will be early June, late May, you get the ballot and you
vote.
cast your vote. And I've always thought it's exciting, and and so it means a special thing for me on Tony night when I see whether the people I selected actually won. It's fantastic, and I love it.
And to get to meet all these people, I'm curious, do you have any stories about
Oh, gosh.
performers who surprised you when you met them? Or
Well, I'm kind of starstruck, I must say that. But one of the sweetest things was I was with Sophia Loren, and she is so charming and so lovely. And I'm with a movie goddess. And then I can remember being with Goldie Hawn, and I drove around with Goldie Hawn all day, and they had brought in her beautiful dresses and things with the big Dolce and Gabbana bags. And so
nice.
we're in the limo together, and so she's like, "I love your dress." And I was thinking, "Oh my gosh, Dress Barn, $99, and it's like, oh my goodness.
Yes. So
But-
she was enjoyable.
Oh, she was
really liked you.
lovely. She was just as sweet as could be. She really seems to be what you see. And people like her and Carol Burnett, people really feel like they know them.
Yeah.
And so I think sometimes it can be a little too much because we have to watch for stalkers. In Philadelphia, I caught Patti LaBelle's stalker, and I actually got the police, and I was running down the road trying to get them.
Wow, you wear many hats, Mary, but catching
Yes,
a
I do.
stalker is something I did not
Well,
expect.
it could be the bathroom. You never know
That's-
what's going to go wrong at the theater. So it's all over the map.
So when it comes to choosing shows for our particular community, is there anything that you consistently look for, or have you booked a show that surprised you with the response you didn't expect?
Sure, that happens all the time. The way you book a show is, I've had a lot of experience. I've been doing this for 30 years, but we also belong in Florida. We have a fantastic arts culture in Florida, and I belong to the Florida facility managers, the Florida presenters, and so we all know each other, all the theater managers and owners, and we talk amongst ourselves, what worked, what didn't work. There's also Billboard and all sorts of records and charts you can check on and see how they went.
Yeah.
And so, I do that. But, I luckily had run a theater in Fort Myers for 10 years. So I knew a lot of the Florida culture.
The Barbara
B.
Mann.
Mann Performing Arts Hall. And so I would come to Sarasota because I actually brought the Sarasota Ballet down to the Barbara Mann Hall.
Oh.
So I knew Sarasota fairly well before I got here. And many times you think a show is going to be the big hit, and then it doesn't sell any tickets. And for me, that's the hardest thing, is when you have a fantastic show and there's nobody there.
Yeah.
But and a good example is I brought Audra McDonald. She had won 4 Tony Awards, and we only sold 700 tickets, and I was absolutely shocked. And I brought her back a couple years later because I so believe in her. I mean, she is the most talented person I've met. And when she had 6 Tony Awards, we sold out. So I said, well, I guess those 2 more Tonys
They help, I
tipped
guess.
it, you know. But I think people who saw the first show just talked it up, and it was really, really wonderful.
So the word of mouth
Yeah,
really
so
did
that does
turn
shock
it.
you, you know, what works and what doesn't work. And, you know, we try all sorts of different diverse things, you know. And I had John Leguizamo this year who did Latin History for Morons. Not a lot of people came.
Oh, my goodness.
But it was important to me
Yeah.
to do these things.
Yeah,
and
because the educational component is something that
Oh my
people
gosh,
may
yes.
not realize. So how is it different for you? You know, let's get back to this government piece.
Oh, gosh.
Because, you know, you getting this 94% to
Yeah.
6% ratio
Oh
of,
my gosh.
you know, income versus the philanthropy
Earned versus,
piece.
yeah,
Earned versus
unearned.
unearned. It's huge. You're the most successful venue in the country. You came
At that
in,
percentage, you know.
At that, no, I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, that percentage is phenomenal. But you know, Mary, working for government is a different animal.
Oh my gosh.
So
yes.
what was that like for you to come in, and this is a true community theater, and it is owned by the people, but it
Yeah.
gives you, it's a different work environment.
Oh,
What's that like?
absolutely. I thought I had landed in Oz. I really did, you know,
Yeah.
because, you know, Florida is different too with all the public record things,
Yeah.
emails, you know,
Your
all
emails
information
are
public
public,
record,
yeah.
you know, and that's very hard because of the arts community. Everybody is very private about, you know, their lives and things like that. So I had to adjust to that. And then purchasing, you know, all the different purchasing rules and procedures. And in the beginning, I was like so dumbfounded how to work with this. And I can remember the purchasing director saying, well, how did you do this before? And I said, well, if you wanted something, you just bought it, you know, and you bought it from the company you thought had the
Yeah.
best reputation or
So
you'd worked with before.
Now you have to get bids.
Bids and
which
RFPs
there's
and-
benefit to doing
Oh,
that.
absolutely,
right?
absolutely. It's just that the real structure, you know, is different. And, you know, it's also, I can remember Steve Lawrence and Edie Gourmet were here, and he was used to getting a $5,000 cash payment in that, you know, because lots of stars, they pay people, you know. So I can remember in Philadelphia going to the bank and taking $100,000 and carrying it back to the theater because a lot of people worked in cash in those days. Well, you can imagine that's not
not gonna
something
go.
you go.
That's not going to
So
work.
I had this situation where he's like, he's not going on stage. We had a sold out show. So I can remember running to, you know, my own bank and la la la. And of course I got my hand slapped a lot, you
Yeah.
know, but it was a choice of does the show go on or not go on, you know, and you know, so we deal a lot with that because lots of people want, you know, cash, and it's a hard issue. So there's all sorts of different rules that you would never imagine.
Yeah.
You know, everything from security rules on up, you know.
Well, and some of the performers get keys to the city.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is a really great fun thing.
Yeah, so how does that work? Do
Well,
you-
I mean, I'll have a mayor or a commissioner that really feels an affinity to a particular performer, or, you know, we were going to present Il Divo with the key to the city because it marked our 50th anniversary.
Yeah.
And that's a really special thing because the nice side, you know, we talk about the negatives about being with the city, but the positives, the police chief is my friend.
Yeah.
You know, I can call the mayor and the commissioners, and I work with them on a daily basis. And so I have that support of the
Yeah.
city staff. And I really feel a lot of times staff gets a really hard rap, you know.
They have tremendously challenging jobs.
They do, and
yeah.
people have no idea. I apologize. I have a little bit of a cold.
Oh,
so.
that's okay. Well, one of the, you know, my nice memories of the Van Wezel is my son's high school graduation.
Yes.
So you all host those too, which is
Sure.
a great community benefit.
Oh,
for-
yeah. Well,
for
Kelly
all of us.
Kirshner told me a story. He would come to the theater when he was a little boy, you know, to school time performances, and then he became the mayor at one point. So everybody has a wonderful memory of the Van Wezel, and I
do.
love it, you know.
Well, tell me about, because the Bayfront project,
Sure.
right, is on on the books. You know,
Mm-hmm.
there's a move afoot to have all that surface parking of the Van Wezels be transformed into parkland.
Yes.
And even the potential for a new performance,
New performing arts
hall.
center. Yes, and I'm 100% in support of that.
Yeah.
People, we do our best to keep all of our, faults of the Van Wezel, hidden, but
It's 50 years old.
It's 50 years old.
Yeah.
It was built at a time where a lot of the motors were outside, so we've had to, because things rust in the salt air and everything like that. There's
Yeah.
no insulation in the roof, so it's very hard to keep it, cold or warm, whatever you want it to
Comfortable.
be.
Yeah.
And I constantly hear about no center aisle and on, but it really is important. We don't have enough seats in the hall, and I have to work so very hard to get a performer like Harry Connick or to get The Lion King, because the cost of these artists or these shows, I mean, with The Lion King, you have something like 21 trucks of scenery and 100 people traveling with the show. And so because of the number of seats we have, 1741,
Okay.
we put the cost of, say, an act like Harry Connick or Josh Groban or Come From Away or Les Mis across 1741 seats, where the Strass Center is across 2,600. So that, of
how
course,
many
makes
do you-
our seat.
Yeah, how many seats do you think would be
a
a good amount?
What we're looking at is 2,250,
Mm-hmm.
because we want it to still feel intimate, but it has to be viable, and the stage size has to be viable, because we don't have a lot of the amenities for the audience that audiences, right now really kind of demand,
Yeah.
because it's not just seeing a show anymore, it's about an experience.
Yeah.
You come, you look at the bay, you have a cocktail if you want, or a soda, whatever, water, and then you see the show, or you have dinner there, and then afterwards we'll have performers outside strolling around, and there's so many more things we'll be able to do. And so it's really been a challenge bringing shows to town when we're blocked a lot by Tampa, and they have so many more seats.
It's because of the size of the venue.
Well, yeah, and when a
Okay.
performer, not to get very technical, but there are all sorts of deals. But lots of times performers make money on the back end. And when you don't have enough seats, you can't generate that back end income. So
I'm not sure what you mean by the back end.
Okay, you pay the performer a fee.
Yeah.
There are all sorts of deals, but traditionally you pay a performer a fee and a royalty, then you pay the expenses, and then whatever's left over, the presenter, myself, and the show split. And so when you have more seats,
I see.
you generate more income. Where,
Yeah.
say, we can generate maybe $1.3 million, somebody else can generate $2.3 million,
Wow.
because there are more seats.
Well, and with the work that you and the foundation have done, you certainly established your authority
There
when
you
it
go.
comes to making a
Quality.
public venue wonderfully financially productive
And that's the
serve
nice thing
community.
about supporting the foundation is they support the education program and renovations.
Yeah. Well, how do people buy tickets and call?
Sure.
What's the phone number to call?
Oh gosh, I have to look that
Yeah.
up, because we have a new phone number,
For
and
the
it's
city, yep.
941-263-6799. And you can also, we have a website, www.vanwezel.org, and I can't say this enough, there are secondary and third party resellers. And so people, they make these websites look like our websites, and they're not. And you will pay 3, 5, 10, 15 times what the actual ticket price is. So
Okay.
look for the word official when you're searching for a website. Or
Okay.
we have wonderful, friendly box office people just come up to the window and buy tickets that way.
Yeah, that I've done that. I've
Yeah,
called and I've
yes.
used your website.
Very good.
Yeah,
Very good.
and now the gala, can anybody go to that? Is that
Absolutely.
Okay.
And you can the foundation has a website as well, but you just call us and we'll refer you to the foundation. And you can either come to just the show itself, but I think it's a wonderful evening. You have cocktails on the bay. It is so beautiful on the bayfront. Then they
Yeah.
have a fabulous dinner, and I'm being told that it's a clear tent this year, so you'll be able to see everything outside while you're having dinner. And then you see the show, and then they
And
have
it's
a
John
great
Fogerty,
fun. Oh yeah,
the
John
show.
Fogerty, and then a great after party with dancing, and they always have fantastic food, and it just is for such a good cause. Think of those 30,000 little kids that get a chance to come and see a show and all their busing is free, paid by the foundation.
That's
and
terrific.
We also support every kid. If they can't afford the $7 ticket, we have a 10% automatic that goes, no child is left behind.
That's terrific, Mary. I can't say enough about what I've witnessed, and because
Thank
I
you.
remember those days, those lean days when Sarasota was questioning whether we could
I
afford
know.
to have it, and of course, so many of us
But
felt we
it's
can't
the city
afford
of the
not
arts.
to.
This is the city of the arts.
It's the city of the arts, but boy, did they find a gem in you
Oh,
to lead it.
thank you.
No, really, this is something that I think we all need to
I love what I
salute
do.
and celebrate, because the expertise you've brought to this and the shows you've brought to the community. I know when I go to the theater, I'm looking to be transported, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
to be renewed, and that whole recreation thing, there is something about a live show. So I hope you're going to be here for a long time.
I plan to be there when the new theater opens, and I'll tell you, the most important, happy moment for me is when I turn around and watch the audience watching the show, and they're having the time of their life.
Yeah, they're enthralled. All right, so you do get to take breaks, don't you?
Yes.
I hope that you're going to get some vacation time, because you work so hard.
I love to travel, and I always kid Joe McKenna of the Sarasota Orchestra. I love when the orchestra's at the Van Wezel, because I get that weekend off,
Because then you're not working.
Yeah, because I tend to, go to every show. I mean, if we have a run of Les Miserables, for example, I'm not there 8 nights in a row, but I will go to every show that we have. And
we only have a minute left, but
yeah.
you do have ushers that volunteer.
Yes,
and
absolutely. We have 500 ushers, and you just call us at the Van Wezel, and we'll put you on the list. I know there's a waiting list, because so many people want to do it. And I tell you, those ushers are amazing. They're fantastic volunteers.
That's terrific. Well, thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you.
We'll look forward to all the plans for maybe refurbishing or even having a brand new arts hall.
We're going to
when it's
have a brand new
happening.
hall.
Yes, you're going to have a brand new hall, and we'll see how it transforms into park around the Van Wezel.
Which will be fantastic.
It will. Mary Bensel, thanks so much for
Thank
all you
you.
do. Want the phone number and the website one more time?
263-6799 and www.vanwezel.org.
Thank you all. Thanks, Mary. Thank you all for watching. Have a great day.
The time really flew. We bid you adieu from community. If you want to know why we love it here, so check out Community. Well, it's a who's who, a what's, when, and where show. It's a mover and shakers who care show.